For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use sculpting and proportional editing to manipulate a mesh to slowly match something that might not be an easy shape to otherwise model. So I'm going to basically look at doing this character's head. So what I need is a spherical shape that will be his head. Now you could always add the UV sphere, but I'm just going to add a cube and use the subdivision to turn it into a sphere. So now that I've got this cube, I'll go to my modifiers window and I'll add a subdivision surface, turn that up. I might go to 3 subdivisions. So I'll just scale this thing a little bit so it fits better in his head. I'll scale just on the Z axis. Have a look from the side. And that's not too bad. I'll just scale it on the y-axis a little bit. And you can see that it doesn't quite match the shape of his head. But that's the whole point of using proportional editing. I'm going to turn this to be a bit more like his head. Okay, so I'll apply that subdivision. And we're going to use this sphere here to slowly become his head. So what I'll do is I'll go to the side view. I'll make sure I can see through this shape at the moment. And basically what I want to do is start to deform this mesh. Now if I go and into edit mode and allow myself to select the vertices, what I'd like is we'll start with the chin. So I want to pull the bottom end of this shape out. So if I find a vertex that might be around where the chin is. So that one there, for instance, is pretty much one of the areas that will give me a chin. So what I could do, and I normally grab, is pull that vertex on its own. So I'll just show you, and that just pulls that one vertex. And that's because I'm not in proportional editing mode. I'm basically saying, allow me to move items one by one. But on the bottom here you'll see there's an option that allows you to decide if you want proportional editing on or off. So if I put that on, I'm going to enable proportional editing, and when I do grab this time you'll notice that it has a large circle. Now that circle can be changed in size with the scroll wheel, and when you pull you can see that the size of the circle determines how much of the mesh is pulled with it. So I'm going to pull a fair bit of it and just get the general shape right. Okay, so that's not too bad. Same with in his forehead. I'm going to grab one vertex that matches about where his forehead is, and I'm going to grab it and move it in. Perhaps I've got this too much affected. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, and you can see that we're starting to get a bit of shape here by using proportional editing. So I'll continue this process. I might move this vertex in a little bit. It's not too bad. Same with the back of his head. That vertex. That's much better. And you can see the process, if you continue it, will basically allow you to shape a general shape that kind of makes the object you're making, shape it a little bit more towards a reference image or something that looks a bit more correct. So from the side that looks mostly okay. Obviously I still got to do nose, etc. And from the front, well, we can pull it out a little bit, I suppose. But in theory the whole thing could probably be scaled just on the x-axis a bit. And there you have a bit of a shape that kind of matches his head. So one of the other things you can do now, which I mentioned, is sculpting. So looking at it in the front, if I want to get the hair, that would be quite a challenge to build that hair with regular mesh modifications. So what I'm going to do is use sculpting to do this. So in instead of using object or edit mode, what you can do is go to sculpt mode, and if you pull the tools menu up, you can see when you click on this button here, the different types of sculpting that you can apply become available to you. Now in general, the one that it gives you to start with, Sculpt Draw, is pretty useful. You can decide on the radius, so you can see here the radius is how much of this mesh will be affected when you start to pull on it. And you can see that you can either add or subtract. So what I want to do is add when I pull over the top of this shape, and you also have a strength. Now we'll try with 0.5 and just see what happens. Okay, and you can see that it's not having a very great effect at the moment. So what I'm going to do is up the strength. Now you can see that it's starting to really pull it out. Now the radius might be a little bit too thick. So I'll look at it again from the side. And you can see that you basically can start to sculpt this shape to start getting the hair that you're after. So I'll look at it from the front view. I think strength needs to be even higher. I'm going to change that to 2. Now you can see that it's really having an effect when I pull, instead of just a slight effect. Okay, you don't have to get it perfect, but you get the idea that by pulling on various sections, you can start to get it to look a little bit like hair. And then combined with the materials, you can change part of it to colour in his head to start looking like hair if you wanted. Unless you needed a lot of detail, this is a pretty good process for getting the general shape that you want.